All right, welcome to the Card Diary by Hobby S. Thompson. I'm your host, Denny Cards. This is episode 105, the fifth episode of season 3 of this podcast. And the title of this one is going to be called something to the effect of, the effect of a TikTok ban on hobby TikTokers and the hobby. And so just today, January 17th. I'm recording this evening of January 17th. The Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, upheld the ban on TikTok. And, I did mention the Supreme Court. We're not going to get into the legalities of all that and what the arguments were. There were some constitutional right to free speech arguments that were made. But this does seem to pave the way for what appears to be a situation of whether they're going to either divest, sell, or ban the popular social media platform. And so I wanted to come on. I did invite some prominent hobby TikTokers to come. Whoa. I am live streaming here with TikTok. There's no one in the TikTok. My TikTok presence, I'll just tell you straight up, it is very small. Actually, some people are in here. Thank you for being here. If you are here on the TikTok live, I wanted to cross stream. I've never cross streamed before with TikTok. I've cross streamed with Instagram, but I'm going to ask people who are here in the TikTok live if you want to hear more of this podcast episode about how the TikTok ban is going to affect the hobby and hobby TikTokers who try to make a living on this platform. Please go to my YouTube channel, Denny_cards. I don't even know if I can type that in here as I am. What do I do? So I don't even. Okay, I'm gonna put a comment here. Please go to my YouTube channel if you want more. If you want to come on and talk about the TikTok ban. All right. There we go. Yeah. So there's some people who are filtering in here now. So I see that. Thank you so much. My TikTok presence is very small. I think I have under 2,000 followers. I don't post much. The only main post I do is to cross post from Instagram, the short form. Recently, I did go ahead and cross post a YouTube video. I actually did not know that you could cross post from YouTube. Like it was like a 15-minute interview and kind of like vlog of a card show that I was at about 3 months now. But basically, it was a interview that I did with, or two interviews I did with Hall of Fame, not Hall of Fame, Pro Bowl and Super Bowl champion winning wide receiver Gary Clark, who is very well regarded in the Washington Commanders, Ring of Honor and all of that. So I didn't realize that TikTok allowed for uploads of like 15 minutes. So that is up there. And TikTok maybe in 2 days gone. We don't know much. We know that it seems like every single day leading up to this ban, things are changing like every hour, every minute by minute. There's so much going on. So what I wanted to talk about was how this could affect the TikTok ban, how this can affect TikTok. He's here. Authentic Sports Card Dad says, let's go. So I'm going to actually put in the StreamYard. Actually, I'm not going to put it in just yet. Actually, let's go ahead and do it. Here, let's do it. Why not? That's the StreamYard link. If you want to join, I might do a little bit of like intro or kind of like discussion, but I do want to try to make this into a more interactive thing with people who are taking the time out of their evening for to be in the live chat or who want to come on and jump on and talk about it. So what I was trying to say earlier was I did try to reach out to some prominent people who are primarily trying to make their business on TikTok by selling personal hobby boxes, breaks, repacks. Unfortunately, I was not able to get anyone on today, and it doesn't surprise me because this is potentially the second or third to last evening where they can use the TikTok shop and utilize that to their ability. Now, could they still sell on TikTok shop after January 19th? I think that the answer to that might be yes, because the reason I call this a ban with quotation marks is because TikTok is not going anywhere, in the sense of people who have it downloaded on their phone and have accounts very well likely will be able to still access the app and create after January 19th. It's just that they're going to stop allowing for new downloads on the Google or Apple store. They're going to stop allowing for updates. Once you stop allowing for updates, things get buggy and things basically eventually crash, especially with new iOS updates. It's just not able to kind of keep up. So when that happens, it will effectively kind of sunset itself, due to just the inability for the technology to kind of like, update and keep up with, as these smartphones get better and stronger. So having said that, I did want to, let me just monitor the TikTok chat very briefly. Yeah, so encouraged alive. Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, so uh I hesitate to say who I invited, but people, they are trying very hard to make as much as they can before, again, they might not be able to do any more of that. There are some people who had, like, they have lives, right? I mean, they have like date nights with their wife or their spouse, and they just weren't able to make it. And that's why, again, I put the StreamYard link in the chat if anyone wanted to click on it and jump on here if they wanted to. So I don't have an exact timeline of how everything transpired, but I did want to say, anytime you have like Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Beast, Frank McCourt, the former owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, when these people are trying to buy TikTok and they're trying to, like, quote unquote save TikTok from being, banned, there's definitely a lot of utility with any social media, and we can eventually get into kind of like the good and the bad and the ugly about social media and the hobby. And yet I did want to say, so it looks like um Project Liberty is headed by the former owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, Frank McCourt, and he had someone as prominent as Kevin O'Leary, who was, he's one of the sharks on Shark Tank. They made a formal bid to buy TikTok. Of course, Kevin O'Leary is one of those sharks who, Michael Rubin, the hobby's own Michael Rubin, was a shark, a guest shark on Shark Tank, and he's also been seen with the hobby's very own Shine 150. So that's not the effect I'm talking about with the ban on TikTok and the hobby. But I just did want to mention, like, Kevin O'Leary is one of those characters who's been kind of like hovering around, dancing around the hobby with some of the, the people who are in the high end of our hobby space. Frank McCourt, I don't know how much he's a hobbyist, but again, if he was a former owner of the LA Dodgers sports team, sports cards, there's that. Mr. Beast, I have no clue if he collects. I imagine if he wanted to, he could. But he's not like Logan Paul with Pokemon, as far as I know. And so he has thrown his hat into the ring. I saw recently with him saying that he wants to try to buy TikTok and save it from being gone. And the other thing I guess I want to say is that, again, this information and news constantly changes and it constantly gets updated. But apparently, in a recent inauguration event, the TikTok CEO, I think you pronounce it Shou Chu, but he was actually invited to sit at the, I don't know, the days that, like the prominent, a prominent seat where like normally dignitaries would sit, kind of like near the president, the incoming administration and the incoming president. So that was really interesting. And he actually put out a TikTok on TikTok. He put out a TikTok where, I wonder how many times I'm going to say that word in this podcast, live stream, whatever it is. But he was invited to sit at the dice, and he came out saying he was very hopeful and that things may turn out to be okay. Um, and I don't think this was him, but someone else was saying about, there's like about 170 million users on TikTok, and that about 7 million of them are like consistent content creators. Again, I don't know what the definition is. I don't know how they come up with these numbers. I mean, I'm sure they can come up with numbers of app users, but with any law, with any rule, uh, the enforceability of it is really important, right? So I've been consuming, I've been consuming so much TikTok about the hashtag TikTok ban, if you couldn't tell. But it seems as if the outgoing administration, the Biden administration, is not going to enforce the law that's going to go on just one day prior to the inauguration. It's not going to collect the fines, which are ultimately the teeth of the law. And it's really interesting because apparently, and again, this is all, in a world where there's like no fact checking, people can say anything they want, I guess. But service providers such as Apple, who offer the app in the App Store, Oracle, the data hosting company, with the servers. Apparently, these are the companies that would be fined $5,000 per user, and at 170 million users, this would result in $850 billion in fines for these companies, and that's ultimately why these companies would want to enforce. Like, let's say this was like, I don't know, $1 per user. I mean, again, that might be too much. I don't know, but $170 million, $850 billion, very big difference. And so they've made it prohibitive for these companies to enable TikTok to continue. And again, it's a matter of when, if they say the app can no longer be allowed in these app stores, it would just kind of, again, it's just the US. Of course, it's all US centric, United States centric. I got some people want to join the live from TikTok. I don't even know how that works. But I'm gonna maybe say no for now. But apparently I got gifted something and said I'm bricked. Okay, I don't know what that means. I'm so sorry. I'm not up with all the lingo of the kids. Like, I try to be. I don't know what bricked means or bricked up. But thank you. Thank you for being here. So let me see. We do have a chat in the StreamYard. I will put it up here. The authentic sports card dad says, "Do you sell on TikTok or just post content?" So yeah, that's a great question. It's a question about me, and I'd be glad to answer it. I don't sell anything on TikTok. I just cross post my content, and that means other than one piece of content that I made specifically for TikTok today about this live stream, almost everything goes through the lens of an Instagram reel, meaning I try to keep it under 90 seconds, and I try to, really like engage or create content for my Instagram audience. And that just so happens to be pushed out, cross posted to TikTok and YouTube. I don't do X. I've done a little bit of Threads, and I really don't do much Facebook, even though it does cross post automatically to Facebook. But that's actually maybe a good segue to talk about what I want to talk about later, and that's called multi-channel presence. Or there's also another offshoot of that, or a cousin of it, called omni-channel presence. And I think that's going to be one of the key phrases I want to talk about today, because the difference. Okay, well, maybe I should talk about the definition. So multi-channel presence just means you have presence in more than one, say, social media platform, right? So that's what I'm talking about here with, being on the other social media platforms and not being betrothed to just one platform. Because as you can see here, if you are completely tethered to one platform and it goes away, you're kind of, uh, hanging in the wind, just like, you're just kind of like, what do I do? Like, I have no other backup plan. So the difference between multi-channel presence and omni-channel. So omni-channel is an offshoot of multi-channel presence, and that's where you are actually these multi-channels are not just kind of like cross-posting, but it's more like omni-channel is where you're integrating these different channels to kind of like have things more fluid and kind of like work with each other. So I guess that would maybe, in a way, the way I'm interpreting that is you would make different content for different channels and not just like cross posting for every single one and just doing it that way. So um, I've thought about doing omni-channel. It's just more work. I mean, to be honest with you, it's just harder. And so, but I do appreciate that question. Now, selling on TikTok, I actually want to put this in the chat. The ramifications. So collectibles is the category that it's in the TikTok shop. And TikTok, I'm gonna actually talk about rates here. TikTok shop collectibles in which sports cards fall under charge a fee of I found this out because I talked to one of my TikTok shop TikToker card friends. So the TikTok shop, as we know, eBay is between 12 to 15%, depends on how strong of a seller you are and if you can get some percentage points knocked down. Whatnot, I believe, is like 11%. And there are sweetheart deals for people who push a lot of product and move a lot of volume product and are just really strong at that. Loop and drip, it's lower than 11%. I just don't know how low. Let's say it's in the high single digits, something like that. And then TikTok shop collectibles, in which sports cards fall under, charge a fee of 6%. That is more than half of what eBay charges for. And TikTok shop is I don't have actual like revenue gross, any of those numbers. And these hobby TikTokers aren't going to share that information because it's like their finances. But anytime you have really low fees like this, you are going to attract a lot of attention and a lot of people who want to sell on your platform. And TikTok Shop hasn't been around for years, like Whatnot or these other ways to try to sell on platforms. I think it started maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. Yeah, maybe, yeah. But once it was enabled, TikTok was a place where a lot of these breaker companies like would go to. I think Backyard, not only do they have maybe they just have a multi-channel. Maybe they don't actually sell on TikTok, but they sell on Whatnot. But they do, if you go through your feed and you're scrolling, you will see that they have a presence on TikTok, and that's actually where I first saw them. They're so huge and they make so much money. They generate so much traffic that they were actually one of my first breaks that I ever saw on TikTok. Like I wasn't even on hobby, in like early to mid 2022. I hadn't come back into the hobby, but when I saw it, I was like, "Wow, what is this? The people are opening up sports cards, and like, what is that?" Um, and so, I just wanted to kind of share the fees because TikTok does have very attractive fees for sellers. Paulie Junkwax says, "My guy." Thank you, Paulie. Really appreciate it. I don't know which Paulie you are. I know several Paulies in the hobby Instagram. So, but thank you so much for being here. If anyone wants to join, again, the StreamYard is shown here and in the chat. All right, so I talked about multi-channel, omni-channel. I talked about the fees. I talked about kind of like a very general, loose outline of what's going on. Yeah, just can't be betrothed to one platform. Um, I'm your yes, that's my post office guy. Yes, thank you so much. I love it. Um, Thank you, Paulie. You are an awesome, awesome post office guy. The reason why I have so much confidence in USPS, the reason I have so much confidence in selling online and getting my packages out, it's because of very awesome, hardworking, kind people such as yourself. So thank you so much. Let's see. We have here Sports Card Authentic Dad says, "I'm team ban TY? Team ban. I don't know what TY means. You mean TT, like TikTok? I don't know. But if you could clarify what team ban TY means, please let me know. And then he also says, "I have more to gain as a Whatnot Fanatics live seller." Yeah, so let's talk about that. I mean, certainly even if the fees are higher on Whatnot, the TikTok shop having like 5 percentage points less, for instance. And I don't know, maybe you can let us know what the Fanatics fee live percentage fee is, their cut. But you are going to get a lot more traffic on Whatnot. And actually, let me say this. I actually have, I don't do it now, but there was a time about 2 years ago where I did stream on TikTok as a breaker. It was only like 3 streams. We had like 600 people, 700 people in the room. Um, there was a lot more casual and people who are outside of the hobby who are attracted to these streams and will just watch. And then the numbers go down. They go down to like 200 or 100. But it wasn't like, it was under the one of the guests, I guess I'll say, is 941. I tried to break with them, and they had an established shop and they had an established stream, but a lot of people were in there. It's just that there's no bidding. There is no actual auctions that are allowed on the TikTok shop. It's more like you set the prices and then people can kind of like negotiate. You can negotiate and reduce prices in the shop. Having said that, if you want a bigger audience of actual buyers and people who are like maybe more into the hobby and are less casual, then Whatnot definitely does get the biggest audience. I also kind of sometimes feel like maybe Whatnot has the least educated or least informed buyers. Fanatics Live, I can't really say too much about their buyer pool because I don't know much about them. But I would imagine that they are maybe a little more savvy, or at least they know the Fanatics brand and they understand enough. I think for Whatnot, a lot of people can just stumble upon it. They can stumble upon it through some ads on YouTube. They do heavy advertising on YouTube, and so they have a really big presence. And the good question. The question is Drip still around? It is, as far as I know. I actually had talks with them a while back about what their how what would it look like to stream with them, and so it's something that I think yeah, as you saw Card Shop Live, they went under last year, right? So that was I think competition is good, but also it makes you wonder how many of these, breaking platforms or streaming platforms does the hobby need? Because the hobby is still such a small market in the grand scheme of things. I love, hey, sports, authentic sports card dad. Thank you for being here. I'll put up all your messages. If you want to jump on, you can jump on too. He asked, are there any shows this weekend for you? No, not this weekend. I won't be going to any shows. One moment. And then he asks, or it says, TikTok has stricter rules now. It's best for rip and ship. Man, rip and ship is definitely the name of the game for like Pokemon TCG. It's I don't know if it's as prominent in like the sports card side of the hobby with TikTok shops, but I know that again, I don't know if it has to do with the customer base and what they're used to and what they like. It could also be, the type of the dollar amounts, right? I mean, like if you want to rip open packs one at a time from a Prism football, like we're talking like $100 packs, whereas packs of Pokemon are like $5 to $7, right? So it might be easier for people to just kind of like you know put in the slot machine $5 bills as opposed to putting in the slot machine $100 bills and $200 bills. But that's just my best guess at that. But yes, rip and chip is definitely more prominent in the Pokemon TCG world. Um, so let's see, multi-channel, omni-channel. Um, what do my notes say? Yeah, like I put in here the question mark. Meta lobbyists. So I don't know how much I want to talk about this, but I had it in my notes. It could be because I was so heavily influenced by what I was watching in my TikTok feed. It was just people just being so angry about how the government. There's so many ways that even our own government spies on us, and who cares if like another country has an app where they could spy on us, but there's no controvertible proof that they do spy on us, and that Meta is losing market share and they're losing eyeballs, and they've paid all these lobbyists money. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know any of that, but I know that in TikTok world, that's talked about a lot. I don't see it coming up on my Instagram feed. I can say that. It just makes sense, right? TikTok's community is banding together and they're all scared and they're worried, especially if they're, a creator who's getting a lot of money from the TikTok creator fund. I can share with you, like this is something I wanted to talk about later, but like in a future episode. but there is really no money in being an Instagram content creator, no direct money. There's no Instagram creator fund that gives you money for like, oh, you get this many likes or this many views. There is like a bonus program that you'd have to get into like the millions to tap into that, and I don't even know how that all works. But I know that TikTok, if you get to a certain point, I think it's maybe over 10,000 followers, and you get some traction with some of your not reels but your TikToks, you are able to derive some amount of money from that creator fund, and it comes your way, and the creator fund is generated or funded by TikTok's cut take after they take their cut out of ads, right? They sell the advertisements on their app, and then that money goes towards creators. And again, there's a big difference between being a big hobby TikToker versus a big TikToker in general, because some of these TikTokers are just, they'll talk about things that are not just so niche as the sports card hobby. It's about, clothes, fashion, love lives, food, working out. There's just so much that outside of just this small niche that we have in the hobby here that they talk about. So, but yeah, the TikTok algorithm is definitely feeding me a lot of hashtag TikTok ban and all that stuff. And so yeah, I feel bad. I generally do. But what happens to these hobby TikTokers, right? Let's go back to like the main theme, which is the effect of a TikTok ban on hobby TikTokers and the hobby. Well, one, again, who knows when the app degrades to the degree that they're going to be gone, or it's not going to work anymore for people, but they're going to have to go somewhere. So where do they go, right? So Whatnot is going to be a really popular place for breakers and streamers. Fanatics Live certainly too. Loop, Drip. I saw recently Loop came out with something saying to hobby TikTokers, hey, come to us. Whatnot had some leaked email or something like that come out saying, hey, come to us, or we're going to try to get people to come join our mega platform. I haven't seen anything like that from Drip and Fanatics Live. It could be out there. It's just that I didn't see it come across my feed. But the hobby TikTokers are gonna the ones who break, they're gonna have to bake in a little bit more wiggle room, or they're gonna have to accept almost double their platform's cut, right? So going from 6% to 11% or more, or less, right? Depends on how much leverage they have, but they're gonna have to bake that in or accept a little bit less money. If out of every $100, they're gonna get $5 less dollars, $6 less dollars. So they'll incorporate that in. I don't know how the whole shipping backend stuff works. Again, because it's been like 2 years since I streamed very briefly on TikTok. I will say that TikTok does sometimes run these coupons for like 30% off up to, I don't know what it is, like up to 10. It always changes, right? That the percentages and the actual dollar amounts always change. But it was like 30% off up to $10. But kind of like Whatnot, they just want to have people get into habit, kind of like with actually buying on the TikTok shop. So Glad, thank you for being here. He says, "What's up, Denny? What's up, Glad? Thank you for being here this evening, Friday evening, January 17th. It is we are already almost 30 minutes into this in this live. Thank you guys for being here. I think I talked about everything I want to talk about with uh, the numbers, the fines. Yeah, Project Liberty, Mr. Beast throwing his hat into the ring at the last second, saying that he's ready to save TikTok. We have here multi-channel, omni-channel. But if we're not going to have any guests tonight, and if we have no one, if we do not have anybody who wants to be in the live stream, like, I get it. I mean, I really, when I set up guest appearances for my podcast and these live streams, I do try to give people advance warning, or advance notice, not warning. I give people advance notice. I try to work with their schedule. The ultimate reason why I felt like I had to go tonight even without a potential guest, is because January 19th, everything might change. It's like old news, right? It's like everything keeps changing by the hour and by the day anyway. And so I felt like even if I didn't have anyone come on as a guest, even if there was zero people in the chat, I just wanted to get my thoughts out. I just wanted to like create. I just wanted to produce something to kind of like document this point in time in this point in the hobby, this point in the world or TikTok and social media. And yeah, it's like it can feel kind of weird. I mean, like I'll be honest with you, as a content creator, like you put yourself out there and you just don't know how people are going to receive it. It is it's almost like throwing a party and like you send out some invites and no one comes, right? That's kind of how it can feel. And yet I know, and I put this in an Instagram story before I started, but even if no one comes in, which there are some people here, but when you do this and you put yourself out there and you go outside of your comfort zone, you feel that discomfort, but in that discomfort or in that struggle or in these hard times or in these times when I'm like staring at a big zero or very small number, to me, that's when you can grow. And also do want to remember these times because I don't know how big this podcast or live streaming will ever get, but I don't want to shy away from the challenge. I don't want to shy away from just because it's difficult or it's embarrassing. Like, I'm in my early 40s, like the time when I felt more unsure of myself. That time is like really gone by the wayside. I will very much admit though, when you're in hobby Instagram, you can feel like high school. You can feel kind of like the cool kids club and all the cliques and all that stuff. But I do want to lean into like this discomfort. Um, because I don't know how other content creators feel, but I feel sometimes that that's when the self-doubt can creep in, or the imposter syndrome, when you are kind of like, you know, up and coming or slow, or like things aren't really going the way you hoped or planned. I don't feel that with Instagram. Like I really don't, just because of the reach and the numbers and the engagement, all of that. For me, it's like not that I conquered Instagram in any way, shape, or form, but I just don't feel that level of uncertainty or self doubt as I once used to feel, maybe like earlier on. But I do feel that with with YouTube. Like I'm only, quote unquote, only, but like, I'm not at 1,000, I'm not monetizing it. And I just feel kind of like uneasy because like it's like, why am I doing this? Why am I spending time away from my family and the hobby? It's because I love it. It's because I like it. Thank you. Paulie Junk Wax is saying you're the man, Denny. Let's go. Thank you. That's very nice of you. But it can be hard. And the whole thing about social media, the effect of social media on the hobby, and this is not just talking about TikTok, it's about just general wide range. It really is a double-edged sword, right? It's like, I remember the second time I came back into the hobby, or no, I'm sorry, not second time. This is the second time. The first time I came back into the hobby was in mid 2000s, early 2010s. So I was back for like a 5-year period from 2007 ish to 2012 ish, and there's like, I don't know, blogs. There was early YouTube. There was people streaming, recording, and then releasing the recording of a box break. Like there's so much trust involved, but there was no instantaneous dopamine hits and endorphin rushes. There was no TikTok dances. There were no like memes as far as I remember. But blowout card form was there and all that, I'm sure, but just wasn't a lot of community building online. This is also the time when LCSs, they held all the power. If you had a great LCS and a great LCS owner, then you were in luck. If you had a really crappy one and you had a really mean, surly LCS owner, they made your hobby experience really suck. Beckett Magazine also held all the pricing power. We want to romanticize the 90s and the past, but not everything was great. I mean, yes, it was cool to have the Beckett magazine, and it was cool to see the numbers on it in a magazine, but there was one publication that kind of was inflexible, and I know they say that they try to incorporate kind of like market data. I don't know how that all works, but I know that when you sell a card for auction online, a comp is created. We didn't have comps, right? We didn't have comps in the 90s, the 2000s. I don't know when it started, the 2010, sometime around there. But the past is also the time when there was just fewer channels on television. There were fewer entertainment options. We were just really wholly dependent on what the media and what big government, what they gave us and told us what to do, what to consume, what our options were. And with social media, there's almost like this, to an extent, this democratization of entertainment and so many other things where we can consume whatever we want anytime we want, and not only are we consuming the content however we want, but we're also now the producers of the content that we like. That's really this Hobby S. Thompson thing. It's trying different things, trying to see what I like to do. Like, I would see content that I like, and I'm like, you know what? I feel like I want to see if I can do that. And that's what that's what this whole thing is about for me, is just kind of like being able to create something. So, I just feel like social media does give the ordinary person, just you and me, like, it gives us the opportunity to have a microphone and a platform. And I think that's really awesome. So that's all the good of social media. Because again, like when I left the hobby in 2012, I left for like personal reasons and like family and all that. But really, there just wasn't any online community building there, at least from what I saw. And so there wasn't much to kind of keep me there from a social standpoint. And that's what I really like about social media in the hobby. Like, I get to see some cool cards online. Would love to own some of them. Certainly have. Sometimes I have FOMO, or I like really want these cards. Sometimes I can buy. Sometimes I can make a deal for them. But having said that, there is definitely some community building that does occur with social media. That's why I do feel bad for the TikTok community, because it's potentially going to slowly phase out. And these creators who spend so much time creating on that platform, they're going to have to find, again, are they going to come to Instagram? Are they going to go to YouTube? Are they going to go to X or Threads, which are more text-based? I imagine a lot of them are going to flock to Instagram and try to rebuild if they haven't done the multi-channel presence or the omni-channel presence. But they're going to have to figure things out. And then again, in 2 days, maybe everything stays exactly the same. I don't know. But now I want to switch over to the downside of social media and the hobby. And I probably won't go a full hour because I feel like I said a lot. What I have said up to this point, a lot of what I already wanted to say. This is when I guess I talk about the trolls and the naysayers. But there's also, when social media and technology with instant, dopamine hits on our smartphones, there's the community building, and then there's also the community destruction, right? So there are the people who are online who enable the they're the naysayers. They're the ones who if you show a little bit of vulnerability, a little crack of vulnerability, they just want to take an axe hammer and just create that make that crack a little bit bigger into a fissure. Like I said, like just saying the words imposter syndrome, you say that and you're going to have people who are going to give you the self-doubt. And I don't even want to say like negative people, because I don't think it's so binary. And I've met content about this in the past where it's not about positive and negative people or positive and negative content creators. It's really just like people who are, realists or optimists, and people who are just kind of like hopeful, and some people who feel like there is no hope. Um, a lot of it does come down to the money aspect of things and the gambling side of things. I think that's like where a lot of people kind of disagree. The collectors versus the flippers, and versus the repackers and the breakers. Like, there's a lot of like tribalism that occurs in the hobby, and that's where there's maybe within the silos of the hobby and the little cliques and the groups, there is some maybe community building. But because the hobby is such a big tent that has all of these different type of classes or categories of people and collectors, there can be some kind of like sniping. It's almost like you're at the lunch table in a high school cafeteria and you're just trying to enjoy your lunch, and then someone throws a tater tot at you and it hits you in the head, and then they're just trying to provoke something just so see if you're going to get up and if they're going to what is it? What do the kids say nowadays? Catch hands. It's almost like they want to get you into a Pokemon battle fight. See, I see Neo here in the chat. He says 3 hours you can do it. Yes, that was an epic long stream. But Neo and other people have been showing these fights of grown adults. We like to say grown men, but yeah, there's some women in there too. But these people who are flooding these Costco's, I think mostly Costco's. I think maybe I saw one Target or two, but it's like they're lined up, and you got like a $15 Costco retail clerk being like, "No running, no running," and they're like speed walking, and then eventually some of them start doing a little jog, and then there's just a mad battle and fight for the Pokemon. Why did I bring that up? I kind of forget. It was about basically like tribalism and kind of like the the community building and the community destruction. But no, Neo, thank you for being here, and Polly and Authentic Sports Card Dad, thank you for being here. Let me see. I haven't checked the TikTok in a while. TikTok Live. I might just go off on TikTok Live. Someone just got the #1 gifter badge. I don't even know what that means. Xander follows the live creator. Hello, hi, I guess. I feel bad. I've been like neglecting this. So it seems like 41 minutes in TikTok Live, I've had 358 views, only one new follower, 0 gifters, and 0 diamonds. I don't know what diamonds are, but and it says you are getting views faster than 99% of live creators with a similar following. Again, I'm under 2,000. I think at 10,000 is when you can monetize. I'm going to click on this information for diamonds. TikTok. Okay, so this diamonds says TikTok rewards you with diamonds based on the popularity of your live videos. You can see reward details and profile settings and privacy, balance, live gifts. Okay. Let's see the chat in YouTube, which is a little bit more livelier. Glad the Ripper says OG Black Friday stuff. Yep, the Pokemon stuff. Absolutely. Card Dog. Hey, I know you're from Instagram. He does a salute emoji. It kind of looks different on the YouTube, whatever it's called, Unicode or Unitext. And then what is this? Slime TV 420 says Lemon 8. Lemon 8 to you as well. Thank you. But so there is the community building and the community breaking it down, and people who are just, I don't know, maybe they're anarchists. I will say straight up, there and people have actually apologized, and they've come to me and said it actually wasn't you, it was something with me. But usually when you have someone who's trying to break you down or break down your community or talk negatively, it's because there's something going on in their lives. And we are we're all human, we all have emotions, and I think it has to do with, are you someone who wears your heart on your sleeve, or do you have impulse control? Are you able to not say what's on your mind, or maybe you don't even have that thought in your mind? And Card Dog says, yeah, we will meet next week. Card Dog, I will not be at Culture Collision. I was going to actually make a reel about it next week. I hope it's a great time for everyone involved. I will try to come later this year, but for many reasons I won't be able to go. But thank you so much. I hope you have a great time. And I do know that there's going to be a kids trade zone or a kids area at the card show, and I'm going to highlight that in one of my reels next week. But thank you, and I'll have to meet you in the 7th iteration of Culture Collision. I don't know, maybe that's going to be like September or October of 2025. But yeah, it's like, it's so wonderful to have these information gathering amazing smartphones in our pockets, and they're so accessible. I know they're expensive and there's plans and all that, but like there's a line in Succession where I forget, maybe it's Rome, he's like, even the janitor has one of these, with the smartphones. And here's the thing, this cat, it's not even our cat. This cat is our neighbor's cat, and he likes to kind of hang out at our house. So this is this say hi. Can you hear her purring? Or him? Say something. um Technology, smartphones, the hobby, social media, getting back on track. Um I don't know if any of you are Black Mirror fans. It's on Netflix, and it is a dystopian future slash it's already here. There's the British versions and then the American versions, but or I mean, I'm sorry, the pre I don't even know how to explain it, but there are earlier seasons where they were based out of Britain, and then they did some with like American actors. How about that? But yeah, like just talking about just they kind of like take current modern examples of the bad aspects of technology, and then they just kind of extrapolate it to like the extreme or to the next level. But yeah, you have these dopamine hits that you get from your smartphone, and yet, oh my god, jeez, this cat. um but I think it's really important to kind of strike a good balance. I don't know what that balance is. I'm learning. I'm trying to get better at it. It's possible that I later this year, like I did last year, take a social media detox. I think it's just healthy to do that. Arguably, it's necessary. I think it's good for us to untether and just disconnect from what is the social the digital versions of ourselves, because it's not real life. I was talking to a fellow content creator earlier today on Instagram audio, and I was like, yeah, it's the classic thing where people would never say the things that they would say to you online, and yet if they did, they would just be complete sociopaths. So yes, I don't want someone to try to say something disrespectful to me to my face, but as we know, the classic term keyboard warrior, or the classic phrase keyboard warrior, it's just people who feel like they're able to say whatever they want behind a screen, disconnected from reality. So that is unfortunate, but that is the negative aspect of social media, um, and the hobby. And it makes you wonder, or it makes me wonder at least, is social media good for kids? Is the hobby good for kids? Is hobby social media good for kids? A lot of people would say no. I think they say the male brain fully forms at like age 25 or something like that, which I didn't know until after turned 25, but I was like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense that may be the case, with the female brain forming much earlier. I don't know, much earlier, like maybe age 21 or something like that. But you see just the amount of money thrown around and these huge cards, and I know some of the kids do have these huge cards, but it makes you wonder, is that part of the hobby for kids? I would maybe argue no, and then I would argue social media um, shouldn't be for kids, but we know the kids are there. I know I have kids who follow me on Instagram and follow me on YouTube. I don't want to block them just because they're kids, but I know some of them who have said some inappropriate things, and it's just, you just have to establish boundaries. I've had to do that with grown men too, grown adults. There are people who just want to, one, not respect your boundaries, and then two, they don't know what the boundaries are. They just don't have the social skills or the social, you know, the ability to kind of like understand outside of themselves and their own perspectives. But that's the hobby, right? We have so many people and so many personalities, again, so many silos and so many categories within this hobby. I mean, I just feel like the gambling aspect for kids, and that now I'm definitely veering away from like the effect of the TikTok ban, so I might have to end really soon. But there's a reason why kids aren't allowed in casinos until they're age 18, or they're not allowed to smoke, or they're not allowed to drink until 21. Again, this is the US, not internationally, and in Europe especially. But It's because we think that kids are not able to handle that type of uh, chemical or endorphin, like whether it is like nicotine or what is it, blood alcohol levels, or like like there's just physiological reasons why kids should not drink, right? They're they can get very sick, right? It's like a what's it called, like their heart can't take it. Their body, their literal body cannot take in alcohol. Same thing kind of with gambling, like these dopamine hits. Even adults, we struggle so much with being able to handle those the chemical the synapses firing off in our brains with getting some big hits, and recency bias, forgetting about all those losses and breaks, and just focusing on the wins. That happens to us as adults, and you're gonna tell me that it's okay for a kid to kind of go through that roller coaster of emotions? Like, that's a lot to ask for. Even the most mature teenager, for example, it's just a lot to ask, I think. So I don't know if actually I do know. It's my opinion. My opinion is that I don't think social media is for kids. I don't think the hobby um, part or most of the hobby is for kids, but they are, of course, allowed to be in there. I can only imagine how much FOMO a kid can feel when they see even a card they would consider a grail that's like not even like four figures. Like they could look at a $500 card and be like, oh my gosh, I that's my grail. I don't want any other card other than that. Fill in a blank. I mean, not a downtown or a kaboom, but just something that of a person that they emulate and they PC, right? Um, so I have veered off topic way too much for me to continue this. I may have to talk about that another time. I do want to have an upcoming episode to talk about kind of like the like sponsorships and affiliate programs and just kind of like that aspect of the hobby. I'm going to make that into a future episode. There's actually a strong interest in people coming onto the podcast. I won't say the names now, but there are people who have been waiting and asking for a while. I'm just trying to figure out a way to wave them in. I'm not going to go by this rigid structure where I'm like, I'm not ready to talk about this or that, and that's why I'm not going to have you until later this year. I want to be more free flowing and more flexible with this particular season 3 of this podcast. So thank you to all of you who are in the live in YouTube, TikTok. Let's see, 300, yeah, 366 views, but there's like nothing in the chat. It makes sense because I've been neglecting the chat in TikTok. I haven't typed anything other than join the YouTube live stream. I understand no one wanted to join the StreamYard. Well, I hope that as people see this content, consume it, view it, absorb it, that they see that the water's just fine. But yeah, this is just the start of me going live. This is only like my 7th live, only the 4th one for the podcast, and like 3 other ones for like an at cost break I did, or some mail day. I don't know. But oh, look, Auburn Trading Show card shows here. Good evening, brother. Good evening to you too, sir. But you're coming in at the perfect time. And why do I say that? Because we're ending. But thank you so much. If you want to watch the replay, it will be available on YouTube Live as a replay. It will be cast or cross streamed into the podcast world. So if you are currently listening to this in podcast form, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And this was the second night, back-to-back nights of live streaming. Yesterday was about having an eBay store. And so I thought I learned a lot in that one. So I'm going to have to probably do some recaps. But thank you so much. And I may in the future have some actual TikTokers, assuming that the app still continues forward. Maybe I'll have some of them come on to talk about how TikTok Shop works and all that, because there is a possibility that either Mr. Beast or Frank McCord or Kevin O'Leary or Shine 150, maybe Michael Rubin, maybe, Diddy or Jay-Z or fill in. We live in a world where just say any name and then they're gonna just pop up into the zeitgeist and pop up to be like a savior of something. I don't know, but thank you so much for listening. Thank you for tuning in. last thing I'll say, last chat comment I'll read, and then I think I am going to end. Auburn says, "Let's make history. You are one of the best people in the hobby." See, I gotta. Why do you have to say that? My head, my ego is already so inflated. My wife doesn't like me in the hobby because I have such an inflated ego. No, just kidding. Thank you, Auburn Trading Card Show. I know you have some card shows coming up on in the West Coast, in California, but hope you guys have some awesome card shows in the West Coast. Hope everyone has a great hobby card show weekend, and hope to see you guys in the next one. Please be good. Please be good to yourselves. Please be good to each other, and I will see you next time. Take care.